Alright, nobody else out there? No. Everybody's in?
Yeah.
Alright, good evening.
Good evening.
Let's call the meeting to order. It is the Tuesday. We're here at City Hall for our regular weekly meeting, and we're gonna stand for a moment of silence, followed by the pledge of allegiance. Thank you. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I don't.
I'll just keep it warm.
On my screen, though, if you want.
All right. First item on our agenda, the minutes for February 5th. Any corrections, additions, changes? First of all, are they in here?
He sent those out in the electronic copy, so I didn't print them here.
Okay, so then they're not in here, but they're part of what we saw earlier. Is there any, we'll just do that by consent unless there's any changes or additions or objections. I have a motion to approve the February 5th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion second. Any opposition? Let the record reflect that we are all five in agreement. Moving on is ordinance 713. We have a motion to read by title only.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion second. Any opposition to reading? Who's going to read today? All right, Mary, get at it.
Ordinance 713, an ordinance of the City of Mexico Beach, Florida, amending the Mexico Beach City Code related to building regulations, amending Chapter 151 to identify wind speed lines in the city, providing for codification, providing for severability, and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date.
Okay, this is the first reading, and just for the case those of you here, that's the wind speed to 140. Changing the,
Yeah, I think that's
I was
the
gonna say that's the second
second reading.
reading.
Second reading.
oh, I'm sorry, it is. That's yeah, that's the wind, 140 wind speed. All right, have a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second. Motion second. Any questions, comments about ordinance 713? Call the roll, please.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Here.
Ms. Alpert?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Here.
Mr. Putnell?
Yes.
Mayor Kathy?
It's a trick question, isn't it?
It is. This time of the morning. Yeah.
Rex and I are on the honor.
Y'all had this
All
stuff.
right, next we have the second reading of ordinance 714. Do we have a motion to read by title only?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion second. Any opposition to reading? Please do so, Mary.
Ordinance 714, an ordinance of the City of Mexico Beach, Florida, amending the city's purchasing procedures, providing simplified processes for emergency purchasing and piggybacking, waiving formal competitive purchasing requirements for 365 days for purchases up to $20,000, and providing severability, providing an effective date.
All right, we discussed this multiple times. Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved. Second.
Motion second. Questions or comments concerning ordinance 714?
Was that for, did I hear you say 1 year?
365.
365
Okay.
days.
Portions are permanent, and then one portion is temporary. The temporary portion is the up to $20,000, not needing to do competitive formal bidding.
Covered by insurance.
I don't believe that's in this version. If that is what you prefer, I think it's
Well,
fine. We have that conversation.
That's what we're talking about.
I think we restricted it to insurance. It's anything we're putting it out.
We definitely had the conversation. I don't know if we came to some firm direction to go a different way with it, but we can discuss that.
My recollection is that it was clear that that was so many other things that are covered by insurance, that that's what we were gonna do, but I may be the only one that remembers it that way.
It's not just insurance, Mayor, some of it's gonna be covered by FEMA, some of it's covered by SRF funds, and we'll talk about the funding. Most of these things are gonna be covered by funding in some other
Okay.
way. Insurance is just one of them.
That was just one of them,
Right.
and the steel comes to us for the approval. It's just that to get the
We're
numbers.
still, right, we're still
Okay.
gonna, we still have to put it out for bid.
All right, we have a motion to adopt and a second. Is there any comments? Call the roll, please.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Ms. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Putnam?
Yes.
Mayor Kathy?
Yes. Okay. Moving on, number 4, is that,
That's me. The Panhandle Engineering Task Order that's in your packet, this is a task order for Panhandle to do the concurrency, transportation review for the, St. Joe PUD. They have an amount of not to exceed $5,000. We just don't know until they get the design and all of the, documents, they don't really know, so this number could change. Not asking you guys to approve it today, just putting it before you. And, we're gonna be Nick and I have been talking about the PUD fee. This will be the first PUD that the city, has implemented. So we, have been looking at fees. There's really nothing out there today that defines a fee. Some cities, just pass through that engineering fee, whatever the cost, is to the city. I don't know, Nick, if you wanna jump in and speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, I did look up, most of the nearby cities and counties, at least those that have published their fees. It's a wide range, everything from fairly low to fairly high, and then, at least one passed along any cost the city incurred. So there's a variety of approaches, and we don't happen to have anything adopted that we can find. This hasn't come up often. Assuming that we have an applicant that's willing to work with us, maybe we should have a conversation about what we would want to do as far as a fee.
So we will be, we're gonna be addressing the PUD rewrite, we talked about that, starting with P and Z. Then when it comes to the council, we're gonna be asking you guys to decide on a fee, how we wanna bill for that PUD. The intent is not to make money off of it, the intent is just to recover our costs, which would be the Panhandle.
We still don't have an application in-house yet, so there's nothing wrong with establishing a fee still.
Right.
And just off the top of my head, the range was anywhere from about $800 to, one city, it was quite expensive. It may have been 10,000, 15,000 for a fairly large development. So
there's only 2 possibilities in the city. There's only 2. I would
So,
hope we would just do a pass through and be done, and
yeah, I mean, we can, if you guys wanna do that, I mean, that would be an ordinance. We would,
Why don't we just do it? I agree with the mayor.
you want to
I
go ahead and do
mean,
it?
we
Okay.
want to encourage things like this, but
Okay. So,
why would we ordinance it just, I mean, if it's a council approval,
I think we can set a fee by resolution.
Okay.
An ordinance would make it very formal and put it in the codes, but we share fee schedules with people all the time, so it doesn't necessarily have to be in our.
I mean, you go through all that, the maximum number of PUDs are gonna be 2. And we're not even sure that the 88 acres is gonna have to be a PUD. So probably most likely, the way out, what I saw is we're gonna have 1.
okay.
Pass through the engineering costs, is that the extent of what you're interested in, or do you wanna expand on that? I mean, sometimes you may have legal, I don't think you have accounting, but there's other,
We may
maybe
have some
professional fees.
advertising fees as well.
My-
Sure.
Yeah, my suggestion, I mean, just whatever we're putting out, they should pay.
How
So
do we
that,
get the fee for the engineering? Do we just ask Panhandle, or do
Right.
they have a fee?
It will depend on the project. And that's a set 5,000, but, Chris said that will change depending on what they
Okay.
see. That was just something to get us started.
I like Linda, just whatever the pass through is.
Mhm.
Right.
All right, so we'll have a resolution for the next meeting?
Sure, yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect.
And that includes everything, I mean, if we have to do
Whatever.
advertising or whatever, legal, whatever, anything.
Any comments on item number 4? Because most of you are familiar with these meetings. If you have a question on a particular item, we're just gonna handle it right then from the public, okay? Moving on.
The next one, just wanted to let you guys know, we had another emergency, we don't have the invoices yet, but I just wanna let you guys know about it. And we can wait and ratify when we have the actual invoices. We had, 2 pumps go down 36th Street North, and we sent those out for rebuild and emergency repair. $3,600 each is the estimate. I think we're gonna continue to see that. I mean, that's one of the things with the saltwater intrusion. They're just gonna start failing. They may be up for a while, so. Just wanted to make you guys aware of that, and when we get those invoices, we'll,
Those rebuilds, they do come with 5-year full manufacturer warranty. So,
about half the price
Yeah.
of a new one. Okay, any questions on that? We move on, Mayor?
Moving on, I'm sorry, yes.
Dewberry task order for soil sampling. I'm gonna let Dina speak to this. This is for dredging. Dina, you wanna?
Yes, so this is sampling at the 3 locations where we have permitted dredge sites, and we have agreements from the property owners to have dredge spoils. So the purpose of that is to do a test before we put any material at those 3 locations to cover the city in terms of liability, confirm that if there is contamination before we put anything there, that we have coverage and we know that. We will be putting down a liner, so there shouldn't be any issue, but just to make sure, we wanna test those sites before we put any dredged material. It also includes dredging and sampling up from the mouth of the canal to Highway 98 at locations specified by DEP, as well as, in the area that we plan to dredge at the 8th Street Canal. And the purpose behind that is, those are the 2 locations where we think we will have sand and potentially could reuse that sand instead of hauling it off to a Class 1 landfill. DEP has said if we don't any material we don't test, we have to take to a Class 1 landfill. We have to pay to haul it off and assume it's contaminated. So in these 2 locations where we're gonna sample, if you choose to do that, there's the potential that material could be reused, put on the beach, if it's found to be clean and suitable. Everywhere else that we plan to dredge on the interior of the canal, it's expected it's so silty, it probably wouldn't be good material, which is why we're not proposing the cost to sample it.
What's the cost of sampling?
It's in the task order.
To do the portions we've scoped out, it's $34,450. That includes the sampling, as well as construction staking of the 3 spoil sites so that the contractor knows where they can build those. And we confirmed wetlands with Army Corps, so we won't have any issues down the road, so it's all inclusive.
That includes the laboratory costs and the repairs and everything.
Yeah.
For all 3 spots.
Yeah,
For
that's
those
multiple
3
sampling.
spots, and then along the canals where we plan to dredge.
It's multiple samplings, right?
Yeah, there's a sample plan included as well. In the canals, it's more than 1 location.
And this is part of, the overall dredging project, and that we expect that to be FEMA reimbursed.
So this potentially, okay, will be reimbursed.
Well, it should be, this will be FEMA it should
Okay,
be reimbursed,
okay.
yeah.
All right.
I don't think there's much doubt on that.
So under national declaration, disaster declaration, would DEP expect there to be some, I mean, we're just gonna act like it's just another normal day at office,
In terms of,
the requirement?
well, I think the concern DEP has is that there likely is contamination in the canal. So before they just let us
take material, well, number one, if we're gonna put it on the beach, we still have to meet the requirements for beach quality material.
Right.
But then the second part of that is, there could be contamination in the canal, so before we place that on the beach or use it for fill, they want to make sure it's clean.
But this is for the dredging permit, right?
It's-
Am I missing it?
Part of dredging.
It is, but it's to determine whether we can take the dredged material and use it.
From
or
the
whether-
spoil site?
No,
No, directly from the canal.
This is the spoil site testing as well as the testing of the sand at the mouth of the canal and the mouth of the 8th Street Canal, so that we can take that sand and put it back on the beach instead of hauling it off to a landfill. We believe there's beach quality sand there that we can recover.
The other benefit of doing this type of testing is we'll be temporarily putting these materials, at least at times, on other people's property. We want to ensure that we can tell them that if they find or think that their land's been contaminated, we can tell them, no, we tested our materials, it wasn't this material that did that, or give them some assurance going into the project that the material's clean. We'll have a line hit, but there's still risks of that.
Is this for, we seeking approval? Okay, we've all seen the task order on, as far as number 6 is concerned for soil sampling. Are there questions or comments concerning the order?
Whether it's good sand or contaminated, we still will be getting reimbursed, most likely.
Yes.
Okay.
In the motion, then, it's difficult to put an amount, so we're just gonna,
I think there's an amount in the task order.
well,
Under task 2?
34,450.
excuse me, it is in there. Okay, so we have a motion, then, the chair will entertain a motion for the task order.
So moved.
So,
Okay, could you be a little more,
Specific?
specific with that?
Sure. I recommend that we go along with this task force for $34,450.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second to that? Okay, any further comments or discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. McLaughlin?
yes.
Ms. Albert?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Putnam?
Yes.
Mayor Kathy?
Yes. All right, SRF,
The next two resolutions, one is for wastewater and one is for, water. And this is, SRF, it says it's a loan, but it's a grant. This is the one we talked about last week, it gets a little confusing, but these are, grant opportunities, 75%. We have a 25% match, of course, that 25% we can match with FEMA funds.
Or insurance.
For insurance funds, for the lift station insurance. So, this is just an opportunity, another funding source that, we sought out to help with that. And both of those resolutions are required,
that's 2019.
2019.
Okay.
We don't, I didn't know the two resolution numbers, Adrian's not here, we can add those numbers later.
Yeah, that's the prefix number, I guess.
Yes.
Okay, are there any questions about the resolution on the SRF loan / grant? I'm gonna use the word grant, not loan. All right, Chair will entertain a motion to adopt, we're just unnumbered, is that the best way for now?
I think, resolution for,
Or just identify it?
wastewater and water.
So I make a motion that we accept the resolution for wastewater and water.
Okay, have a second?
Second.
Questions or comments? Wow.
All right.
All right, call the roll, please.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Ms. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Putnam?
Yes.
Mayor Kathy?
Yes. All right, moving on.
The next one is just to, you guys wanted to set a date, a workshop for fire assessment, and this is going forward, how you want to assess that going forward, bringing it back to the general fund, or whatever you guys wanna do. You wanted to, set a date for a workshop in February to start those discussions. So we're just looking for a date.
Are you recommending anything?
You've got, your next meeting will be Tuesday week.
Let's put it on the agenda, make it agenda item.
You wanna
Yeah,
do
2
it,
weeks.
you
2
wanna do
weeks.
it on the next council meeting in 2 weeks, or you wanna do a separate workshop?
Council pleasure.
Council meeting. What can we talk about at council meeting? No problem.
And if we need anything after that, we could always add another workshop if we felt that we needed to.
Okay.
Before we do that, I would make a request to our businesses. I know there's gonna be various things coming into this, whether we volunteer, whether we go pay, whatever. From my point of view, as I'm looking forward, I see our businesses are gonna have huge investments, especially our 2 motels, the largest ones. And I would like for them to give us a feedback. I know we'll get good feedback from our citizens on what they want. But these businesses potentially will have some pretty heavy money going into rebuilding and a lot of responsibility to our people who are gonna come and visit and stay with them. I'd kinda like for them to give us some feedback in this particular meeting so we can understand what they want.
Any other comments? Okay.
Can we, and I'm sure you will do this anyhow, have numbers of how much it costs us to keep our fire department, what we need to do, and if we assess everybody, if we go the tax route, and maybe that's where the second meeting comes in, if we need one, you know, what do we need to do in order to cover what we absolutely need? I think that's a $64,000 question.
We can do that, we can give you some options to look at.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? All right, continue on, please.
Okay, the next task order in your packet is for, the removal of the debris from the water, the shoreline. I'm not gonna ask you to, well, Nick, I'll get some guidance from you. We're holding off on this currently, it's all permitted, we've got the task order ready, but FEMA thinks that it should be the Coast Guard doing that cleanup. So they're reaching out to the Coast Guard, and until we get that answer back, we can't proceed with this, because we wanna make sure that the city's not gonna be on the hook for this money. So if, the Coast Guard decides they don't wanna tackle it at this point, then we're ready to do it. Can we go ahead and approve it today, and then we'd like to be ready to go. And now we're only meeting every 2 weeks, so if we can approve it pending that Coast Guard decision.
You could approve the task order, but without the notice to proceed, but I don't know if with the Coast Guard or any kind of reimbursement opportunities, if we have an approved task order, if that complicates things, interferes with things, changes something with the Coast Guard, I have no idea. But ordinarily, sure, you could approve the task order, but hold off on notice to
Cancel
proceed.
if we need to.
You could always do a special meeting, couldn't you? I mean, it's important
I
to
mean,
get started.
We
but
could,
I wanna get it started as we can, but I don't wanna get.
And this is the 30 yards out or what, second sandbar, if I
second
remember the way that's
sandbar,
worded.
yes. So we could, do you recommend we hold off? I don't think it's gonna have any bearing on the Coast Guard, they're just You're gonna say yes or no?
If it wouldn't have any bearing on the Coast Guard, you could certainly approve the task order, but not the notice to proceed, and then just give, I'd say, either the city administrator or the mayor the authority to issue the notice to proceed whenever it becomes apparent that the Coast Guard is not the party to do the work and the city would need to.
All right, so then Chair will entertain a motion to approve. Now, the document says both.
It says combined task order and notice to proceed. Just in your motion, make it clear that it's approving the task order but withholding the notice to proceed. And I would suggest giving the authority to issue the notice to proceed, again, either to the city administrator or the mayor, your choice, doesn't make any difference.
I would say the mayor, since he signed it.
Okay, so Chair will entertain a motion for a task order and holding the notice to proceed until later.
So move with the addition that the mayor will give the final approval to proceed if necessary. Is that okay? Written like that?
Fine.
Good.
All right, everybody here understand the motion? You got it, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Could you read it back to us?
Yes, sir. It's pretty much to approve the task order without withholding notice to proceed, and the mayor gives final approval.
Is there a second? Second. Any questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Ms. Albert?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Putnam?
Yes.
Mayor Kathy?
Yes.
Before we proceed further, I wanted to ask a question to the city administrator. The resolution we did on the grant, not loan, not grant, I'm just getting caught up. I'm seeing two different resolutions in this package that I'm reviewing. Did we need to approve both? Did we? Or were we only doing one? I only think I heard one of them.
We have to approve both, and I thought she said
We did
water
both.
and
Water.
wastewater.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Water is one, wastewater is the other. Two separate resolutions.
Yeah.
Great.
Alright.
Moving on.
Department reports, in your packet is code enforcement report, you'll be getting that monthly, and I'll let Philip and the chief,
Are
the
you,
chief's run through.
do you have any, are you gonna
I'm
jump
gonna
back
come,
in
I'm
this
gonna come
one?
back to the
Okay,
miscellaneous.
Sandy, you got anything for today?
No, it's same thing as it normally is, we're there answering calls, medical, we haven't motor vehicle crash or a pedestrian hit last night. It's, not badly injured in any manner, or form, but again, just be aware, lights aren't on, people aren't visible, stop signs still aren't up and so on and so forth. But we were here to answer any call that may be sent our way.
Thank you. Dina, do you have anything? Do good. Phil?
Yes, sir. We should have our panels, our lift station panels, within a couple of weeks. I know I've said that a few times now, but they assure us they'll be here within a couple of weeks. We'll start getting those put back up, getting lift stations, on line power, and converted over. So you'll see that coming down the pipeline. We'll get, 7th Street's a big one that we've gotta get online. It's been running on bypass power for, since the storm, and it's costing the city a lot of money to keep that bypass pump there. So we wanna get that one done, really quick. We had lift station on North 36th Street fail yesterday, or day before yesterday, I'm sorry. Got it back up and running, but it's also hanging on by a thread, so that's another one that we've gotta get back online. But the panels are scheduled to be here within a couple of weeks, first of the month. We'll get that ball, as soon as they get here, we'll start putting them up, as soon as they get here. I've had a few phone calls and a few questions asked about this. I figured now would be a good time to go ahead and address it. There's been some, I don't wanna say complaints, but maybe concerns is the best way to word it, that we're going around the city and disconnecting people's sewers. We are disconnecting sewers for demo locates. We're disconnecting sewers from lots that used to have a house that no longer has a house, meaning the hurricane moved the house somewhere else. Or if we come to a lot and we see an issue such as, sand being sucked down into the sewer main or something like that, we cut and disconnect them. are not taking out the sewer lines themselves, so whenever it comes time, you'll be able to reconnect. I've also was asked if there will be another tap fee charge. There will not be another tap fee. That's already been paid for and all that good stuff. You'll just have to tie back into the sewer line itself. So if your house is still there and not being planned on demo, we're not gonna come by and cut and cap you unless there's an issue there. Just wanted to touch on that. But other than that, I think that's all I got. Oh, no, met with the dredge company, talked with the dredge company yesterday. Their dredge will be here within 2 weeks. We talked about, they're gonna have some cranes come in, lift it and place it in the water down there at the boat ramp. So you guys, you'll see that. So if you do, that's all it is. We're not doing anything super special, just putting the dredge in the water. That's all I got. That's it that time.
Okay. On dredging, have we verified, I'm not sure the answer is yes, but our spoil sites, they're comfortable that they can dredge to those sites?
Yes.
And they're dredging from the mouth of the canal to the 36th Street Bridge?
To behind Waterside. Then
Yeah, Waterside, I'm sorry, yeah, under and around through Waterside. Okay.
And then 900 feet of the 8th Street Canal.
Really?
Is that right, 900 feet?
Yes.
Is that from the bridge north?
Yeah, from the bridge north, we don't have permission to go south onto the beach, but yeah.
Okay, that wall, I didn't even notice, that wall finally falling in?
It's trying to. It's definitely getting worse.
Questions for Public Works?
Probably will, now that I think about it. We're going to cut that channel back out to 7 feet. They might do that wall in, for sure. The one on the left, right?
Yeah, one on the left.
Correct. Yep. I know we've been fighting, I don't wanna say fight, but we've requested numerous times over the years that they fix the wall. Ain't gotten anywhere with it.
No, I agree. We have not had any success at all getting that, as if they were going to fix it. And I guess unless somebody was gonna develop it, that's gonna be the only time it's gonna happen. Most likely.
We haven't done, I don't believe, the task order for the actual dredging. That'll be the one that's several $1 million. With not having a meeting next week, does that timing work? Could have the dredge in place within 2 weeks?
Yeah, no, we did.
We did?
Yeah, we did the contract and the task order. I
Wait,
thought.
We did the mobilization.
Yeah.
Oh,
For the
oh,
dredging, yes,
yeah,
yes,
right.
you're right now.
Yeah, sorry.
I mean, ordinarily it wouldn't be an issue because we've been having weekly meetings. I'm just wondering
Right.
if that small, if the timing works. If it's gonna be about 2 weeks before the dredge is even here, we then approve the task order from 2 weeks today. It seems okay, but I wanna make sure.
By the time we get ready to start actually moving sand out of the creek, we'll have another meeting. We'll have it out.
Yeah, March 1 was their start date,
Yeah.
so we have one more meeting before March 1.
Great.
Chief?
It's 2 months, you can't keep.
Out of the past 5 days, out of the canals, they removed 8 more boats, cars. In fact, the last 3 days, they had 3 more cars removed. Earliest, another one was picked up this morning. So they are diligently, as they go, picking up. Over the past weekend, and this is a request or a suggestion to council, I attended a Elvis impersonation event by Todd Hernandez. And while I was there was a bunch of people from the north, as they refer to themselves. They're Canadians, Michigan, snowbirds that came down here. And once they found out that I was in the audience, they put a pool together and collected $1,200 to give to the city for the first responders or a needy family. Obviously, with the outcry of support that we received from everybody, I would like to maybe, with your approval, go a different direction. For the 4 people that we lost in Hurricane Michael, maybe we could get a plaque and a chair, and as Ms. Castro mentioned earlier, place it at Sunset Park and dedicate it to the people that we lost from the storm. So we do a lot for the survivors, but the 4 that we lost were still Mexico Beach family members. So if that's something that you guys at some point.
Recognition of them is awesome, should
I
be.
think that's great.
I think it's a great
Maybe a
idea.
plaque, and if it's all right, look around and see what kind of things that we can get for the $1,200, because I thought that was pretty generous. It was
That's great.
kind of caught me off guard, because I went there for an anniversary and looked for $1,200.
There you go.
But,
Well, you stopped trying to impress you.
but and then they gave us a little certificate with first responders. So,
That's
but
correct.
I thought that was pretty nice, and it was, and as I said, it was the friends from the north know that they're still supporting Mexico Beach,
There you
and they
go.
appreciate everything. So, if
Yeah.
that's all right, I'll just look, and when it's
Yeah,
that
look and see
time.
what you've been finding, what, I think all of us, we're going to just, I mean, I think recognizing those folks is very important, or remembering them.
Yes.
It'd be cool if we had any wood left from the pier that we could have somebody make a chair out of that.
That would be
There was a big piece of it sitting right there in front of that governor,
Yeah.
huge piece. I don't know, rest of it's over there in Robert Hudson's house. Oh, not anymore, so.
We got most
It's a
of
great idea, great
But
idea.
that's pretty much the gist of everything, operations, and as the Chief Sandy said, he was last night, and that was handled by another agency, but whatever we gotta do to continue the community going in a safe manner.
Yep.
Thank you.
Questions for the police? Okay, thank you. All right, miscellaneous?
I just had, in your package, you have, we put together just a list of the funding sources, grants, other things that we either have applied for or will be applying for, and amounts and how much of a match. So we just put this together for you so that you can see, everything that we're working on as far as funding. I don't have a number for Duke Energy, that is still pending final approval, so I just have a placeholder there. The Florida Voter Improvement Grant, some of these we will be applying for, we don't know exact numbers at this point, but this just gives you an idea of all the different funding sources we're going after. On the second page, it's just the overall, we've applied for the community disaster loan. There's the 2.8 million, DOT state gift. We've got about 100,000 in donations. And then the FEMA state assistance, that's the 90, we're hoping 90/10 match for the first 45 days. And we'll probably be on the hook for 10, after the first 45 days. And then our insurance estimate, about 4 million is what we're estimating at this point. So just so you guys have that, you know what we're looking at. And then I just have one other thing, well, actually two things. Variances. We're gonna start getting variance requests in for setbacks. These are folks wanting to go back in their original footprint, and they may have been multifamily dwellings before, and now they're wanting to go back as single-family homes. So we're gonna be getting some of those. But yesterday, when I was looking at it, and we also have the shopping center, that's another area that we talked about already on the setbacks. To me, typically in the past, you've had maybe one individual who would come in, one owner. Well, now you may have a quad that's 4 owners, and we charge a $50 variance fee today, and then we advertise, and that's to cover the cost of advertising and all of the work associated with the variance. But if you have one structure or one area, like the shopping center, and everyone is requesting that same setback, just asking you guys about rethinking, instead of a quad, 4 people having to each pay $50, maybe it's $50 for the entire structure. It just seems that we would be charging $200 for a quad for something that we know is only gonna cost $50, because it's the same owners, the boundary owners to notify. So I just wanted to know your thoughts on that. It's a fee today, so it's probably something we can just vote and change. But if it's a group or a multi-dwelling structure,
I don't have any issues with adjusting the fees for these kinds of situations. What I would caution though is if you get a particular building, structure, project in, and there's some chance that maybe there'd be an approval of some but not all of the units, in that case you want to treat these as individual applications, individual hearings. But if it's very obvious that it's, say it's 2 units, and you're gonna, if you grant it to one, you're granting it to the other, I think makes sense given the circumstances, just to treat it as a single variance.
What happens if you just don't have a fee and you just let them fill out the application?
Well, we do have to advertise it and send certified letters to the owner, so the city does incur costs.
Will $50 handle that?
Typically covers it.
Well, I think that if all of them are looking for the variance, go with the $50. If 3 out of the 4 aren't, well then, if Nick feels it's a concern, then the 3 would have to be charged $50. But I think under the circumstances, and I do think that we should have a fee, I don't think it should be a freebie.
Yeah, the city needs to be reimbursed for that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
could
that
add up real
charges.
quickly.
Well, I'm for the freebie. Cause I just, I mean, there's people that are, you say, well, it's just $50, but and even the advertising, think about what I guess, I understand what Nick said, but there's gonna be signs everywhere, advertising for variant setbacks. Is there not another better way to do this under the conditions that we're in? I mean, it just seems, that's just business as usual when we're not business as usual. And we told them they could bill back. We made that adjustment. And now we're gonna open the box to everybody, charge them $50 to come in here to say, well, here's what I wanna do.
The other way.
I hear what you're saying,
Seems like to
but
me there should be a way that our little local government can figure out a way to do it different than business as usual.
The different way to do it, it's not too late to do it, is just to add something in land development regulations recognizing this particular unusual situation and not requiring a variance, but we didn't do that during land development regulation process before and left it open that.
I don't think we shouldn't, I don't think we should not let them present their case and look at it. I'm just saying, can't we do that without charging? Can't we do that without, is it mandatory to advertise every time somebody wants a variance?
The advertisement is required by our codes. The charges, that I was trying to say, that's really up to you, if you wanna change the fees. When I made the comment that I made, it was more about the idea that you might run into some situations where it doesn't work for 3 or 4 or 5 people to all be as part of one application, because they might not all have the exact same situation. You might be in a spot where you would be.
Well, I'm okay with each
inclined to
one of
approve
them
some,
doing their own thing. I'm just saying that if you do that, you're gonna re-advertise on the same lot for it just seems like to me we could.
I hear what you're saying about not charging them. On the other hand, we don't have any money. Where are we gonna get the money from as a city? I mean, look at our debts that we're gonna have to incur, and yes, it might be.
That's what I'm trying to ask, what do we have to do?
Yeah, right.
What's the very least we can do to incur the least amount of expenses? Advertising and sending out certified letters is expensive.
Yeah.
That's expensive.
Well, it's also, we're gonna have a lot of boards setting up for variances, so we're gonna have to build a lot more signs too. That's gonna be
Okay.
expensive.
Keep in mind that you may have, like yesterday we had one, they're not going back in the original footprint, they're wanting to do, they want to enlarge the structure, so I don't see that as one that would fall under what you would exempt from a fee, because they're not just going back to their original footprint, they're wanting to do something
Well,
different.
couldn't that be handled?
Yeah, I mean, we can do that, if we can, looking at you, Nick, if there was something that the council could, if they're going back in their original footprint, that we waive the variance fee and the requirement to advertise.
The fees are no problem, you can waive those if you make that decision. The whole point of the advertisements is to provide notice to the neighbors, and you run into issues if you don't require that, first, because your codes say you need to require it, but then second, even if you got that eliminated from your code altogether, you still have issues where the neighbors can raise constitutional concerns and say that they didn't know this was occurring and they objected to it. It's not quite as simple as they're putting things back the way it was, or some other thing that we wouldn't know about because the neighbors don't know about it. I would avoid not putting out notices for variances. It's always been required and it's good practice.
Okay. So do we have anybody wanna do anything different than what the LDR says we'll do? Or the comp plan, I should say. Anybody wanna make any changes?
One suggestion, you can control cost a little bit. As far as a newspaper advertisement, you could put several in one ads, because a lot of the language is identical. It's introductory language, it's basic language about how to participate, and then the body, you just list off all the addresses. And that'll save a lot of money.
And once again, we ready to move on? We do with that?
So are we just
I guess we're gonna stay just like we
leaving
are.
it, so
Unless
then
nobody-
everybody pays the $50, or?
Unless we wanna do something different, that's what
What
we
do you
discussed.
say?
I don't see anything easy to do different, I mean, other than just.
Well, we
you know,
can
not
make
cost.
it as difficult, I mean,
I don't wanna
I don't
make it
agree,
difficult,
I don't need to say it anymore.
I know.
I think there's other ways to do it. I think the administrator could look at the thing, and if it's clearly, Nick thinks, obviously our attorney thinks that there's, you know, we get into constitutional issues about somebody didn't get notified. I just think we're under a national disaster situation, that people are tired of paying for trying to put their lives back, and I think that's all. That's just my position, but that's fine. I just need either somebody wants to do something different, or we're gonna move on.
Well, I mean, I don't know what the other members, what you four would feel, I know what Al feels, but I wouldn't mind just having one $50 if there was a group of homes all connected, and they're all going for the same thing, fine. But if they're going for something different, then it'd be separate.
And I wouldn't mind even if we took a look at the fee and said, if we do a weekly notice and put everyone into it, if there's a way we can do easier and cheaper on signs and lower the fee. But I still would like the city to be reimbursed for anything that they have to do, because frankly, just like the citizens that are tired of money, we don't have that extra money to spend either. If we could lower the fee, I'd be more than happy to do that, because I agree, we need help. But we're still putting money out, and we're gonna get it back from the citizens one way or the other. If we don't do anything, it's gonna come back to us in more taxes. Is there a way that you look at and see if there's some way we could lower the cost? Or the cost would be different than 50? I'd love to see if we could do it at 40 or 30 or something.
We can certainly look at that, kinda like the PUD, it's just to pass through the cost of
Yeah.
what we have to do, we can look at that. But the fee and the issue with if you've got a quad,
Well, I agree with that, you know, if it's,
If
everyone's gonna
everybody-
do everything,
yeah.
then it's one fee.
if everyone's going back to the same.
Yeah.
In a quad, you're only gonna have probably the two on the ends wanting a setback variance. But if we can look at the fee and
I wanna
also.
work with our citizens, I don't wanna screw them.
Could you just sort of comfortably feel like you could look at them and make some suggestions?
I do,
So that
you guys trust me?
Just use some.
Sure.
some more sense in what we're trying to do. All right, go ahead, continue on.
Just last thing I have, debris and demolition, just wanna run through this again to make sure everyone understands what we're doing and the deadlines. We also, I spoke with Channel 7 today, they're gonna get it on, the local news as well. So February 15th is the last day to submit your right of entry for debris removal only. So if you're interested in doing that, you can find those forms on our website under the news section. You can find them on Facebook. The links are also in your Waterville newsletter. The last day to submit a request for demolition of an uninsured structure is February 22nd. We've received maybe about 30 so far. Only one was eligible under FEMA rules. It has to be primary home, uninsured. But February 22nd is the last date to submit that. If you have a contractor doing any type of demolition or debris removal that you're paying, they have to haul that off. You cannot push it to the right of way.
When is that, the date is?
The last pass we're gonna do for picking up out of the right of way will be March the 11th. That's a county decision. We've looked at our city, we feel like that March the 11th is a good date. So after, if you have anything you need to get to the right of way for storm debris, you push it to the right of way by the 11th of March and we'll pick it up. After that, the owners will have to arrange for hauling off that debris. April 1st, any debris still on lots, it just falls into the code enforcement process and we'll start the code enforcement process at that time. We will work with people. By April 1st, we're gonna have folks that still don't have settlements from their insurance company, so we're not gonna fine you and cite you if you're waiting on your insurance company. But we will start the code enforcement process on April 1st.
Are you talking about trees down on lots?
Debris,
That's debris.
safety, hazard, any of that on April 1. We cannot pick up construction debris, so if you have a contractor doing work on your property, they need to have a dumpster or a trailer where they're hauling that off. You cannot push construction debris to the right of way. That is not eligible. If it gets picked up, the city could end up paying that bill. And no other storm-related debris. I saw where somebody had put a refrigerator and a sofa out on the side. Two sofas, that is not eligible for FEMA collection, unless, the only thing that's eligible for FEMA collection is storm debris and destruction.
So if furniture is damaged by salt water,
Anything that's damaged, anything that's storm related, you can push it out, but what, the one that I saw down there clearly wasn't.
Run an electrical cord or freezer and look out across the road.
It wasn't storm debris, so just make sure that what you're pushing to the right of way is storm debris.
So the forms for FEMA to approve, you said primary residence.
Primary residence, for public assistance, it's primary resident, for anything that you do with FEMA, that's kind of an overall rule.
So a second homeowner doesn't qualify. Well, then we're gonna look. I mean, it's just something right, around, something just doesn't make sense here.
I know,
It just doesn't make sense.
It's extremely frustrating. We do have Team Rubicon, they can do it. They're taking down a lot of structures. Samaritan's Purse was here, I think they've moved out. So we do have volunteer organizations that can help.
Well, are they telling people that if you're a second homeowner, don't put you, I mean, you said 30 of them and only one qualified, somebody's not, I mean, that
Yeah,
word obviously isn't.
we probably should add that. I don't know if it's on the cover letter or not, but we'll go back and look at that and make sure people are reading that, on that form. But all
how
of
do we
the,
rationalize that? These second homeowners pay taxes and all the other stuff.
it's just a FEMA rule. I can't really rationalize it for you other than to say that's if it's your primary home that's destroyed.
That's not
They
our
provide that
decision,
assistance. Yeah, it's not our decision.
Yeah, but it's economic, it creates an economic hardship for our city when you're a tourist-related town, 75% of our residential properties are non-homesteaded. Somebody with FEMA's gotta understand that. I mean, we're not, that's what it clearly says in their book about what they do for communities, health and welfare of your community, and economic recovery that will stymie our community.
Well, FEMA's position is if you own a second home, you should be able to haul off your own debris and take care of your own demolition. This is
Well,
not your primary structure, I'm just giving you.
Well, who, and we've talked to them
We have,
extensively?
yes. It's just part of the FEMA rules. But we'll, we do have organizations, volunteer organizations, they've taken down.
Who do we talk to? Who is our, quote, FEMA contact for that decision making?
Sid Melton is our FEMA.
Is he in town?
He's not in town.
Is he in Washington, or what is
I don't
it?
know where his office is, but he's just an email away. And we've had Brock Long out, we've had Tom McCool out, we've had everyone out, and you're gonna get the same story.
Well, I didn't get it from Brock Long, cause I asked.
Well, if he gives us permission in writing, we'll do it and take the chance, but unless he gives us something in writing, that the city's gonna end up holding back.
I think, for me, and I think us as a council, maybe we need to talk to Sid. Maybe that's a major obstacle in our ability to clean our city up. In my opinion, I may be the only one, that's gonna cause a problem.
We could get FEMA in here, right?
No, I don't want just FEMA, I want somebody,
Well, I mean, FEMA as an
Well, I'll tell you
organization
what,
to pay for it.
I don't know.
I would assume that you agree that that is going to create a ugly scene in our city for second homeowners who simply, because they're a second homeowner, disqualifies them from this service.
I know that if those owners don't clean up their property, that's gonna be more work for us, cause we're gonna have to handle that through the code enforcement process, and then the city's gonna end up, if they don't, the city will have to clean it up and then put it on the tax bill. It's a long, complicated process.
Okay.
But I also feel like that at the end of the day, property owners have some accountability and responsibility to clean up their lots as well.
We take every shot we can to try and help them.
Mhm.
If we can get this, mayor wants to call this other gentleman and help.
Well, I will, I absolutely will.
Any shot
I
we can do to help.
just can't grasp that we would be left with what we're gonna be left with for us to deal with, and then we're gonna make everybody have so many unhappy people because the storm didn't completely wash their house away. They just almost washed it away, and then that's what we have to deal with, so. Okay.
Mayor,
So
keep in mind, it's also, primary residents. If they have insurance and they just leave it sitting, I mean, we're in the same boat.
Right.
Whether it's
I
a
know.
second homeowner.
I know, but the ones I've talked to, I'm a perfect example. I've got just enough insurance to cost me a lot of money. That's what I've got. I've got just enough money, insurance-wise, to disqualify me, to cost me a lot of money. And that's been the case with so many. They give them $2,000 on their insurance policy, and because they got any money, they're kicked out. So, anyway, that's just me on my soapbox.
So you're gonna try to get him
I'm
to
gonna try
talk
to
to
talk to
us?
Brock Long. That's who I talked to, that's who I looked in the eye to. I've got a way to contact him, I'm gonna find out.
Okay.
That's
And if he
good.
wants to meet with us, I'm sure that we'd all
I'd be more than
like
I'm
to
like
give
that,
him.
I wanna put it in writing that they're gonna do
Oh,
it.
yeah.
He'll put it in writing, we'll do it.
I understand. Continue on, I'm sorry.
That's all I had. Just wanted to run.
I got a couple things, I met with George Gonzalez, Friday, I think, yeah, Friday, and St. Joe has agreed to give us 25 acres of property, along our waterworks. You know, we had 5, was what we thought initially, Michael comes along. And they've also, he said that they would be more than happy to look at Joe Road, which is over by Casuna subdivision, as an entry point, or give us some type of easement for a road to access that property. He made it very clear that we could rearrange that 25 acres that would best suit us. He just had it in a block rectangle form, but I think Dina would be, or somebody in the engine, could look at those uplands, topo maps and decide, and he's gonna send me that in an email. I have not received it. And he also said that he would be entertaining some type of plan on stormwater. If they had property that would assist us in stormwater, that he would, to send it to him once we got some type of, something that, where they own property in adjacent to Mexico Beach, that they could, if it would be of assistance, they would entertain that. So, that was good news.
So we're getting 25 acres from,
25 acres.
from
Fee simple deed, no, none of this. At one time, I think Tanya and I both heard they were just, or it wasn't George, it was someone else talked about, what could we do for some tap fees or something? That was thrown out there. He said, no, that's not the case. So, that gives us, as we had, Tanya and I had discussed when I told her when she got back, it gives us a great opportunity to put something and have a good access to it besides 19th or 22nd Street. And it gives us enough room to do the things that we all think that makes, you know, put us back in business. Fire, police have one central, quote, government complex.
Yeah, city center.
And I think that's the best we could possibly hope for.
That's all right.
And we just have to, we do need to make sure when we get the general area about the uplands and what, of that 25 acres, what, you know, what we can do with it. But at least, Tanya mentioned we could engage someone now to start looking at a plan for a complex. I think y'all are probably tired of that trailer.
Be a nice change. Have running water indoors.
There you go. And that's all I have. So, Nick, you have anything?
I do not.
Closing comment, Doc, nothing?
Mayor, can I just add
Please.
the 2 ladies you met? So
Oh, yeah.
today, the American Institute for Architects, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Anyways, 2 ladies came, the president and past president of that organization, and they're also working with the masonry industry. And they said they were here looking for an opportunity to do an EOC/community center combination. And I said, well, you've come to the right place, because that's exactly what we want on that 25 acres. So they're gonna be working with DAG, our architects, and help us with that. And it's, the way that I heard it is donations, but it has to be masonry
Free.
construction.
Free takes on a different meaning.
Donation sounds a lot better, I agree.
So they came today, and they're interested in doing that for us, so
Yeah.
we're excited.
All right. Right.
All right. Thank you everyone for coming. Motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Okay.